Thanksgiving today, and the first thing I'm going to cook is our dessert, and it is a cranberry creme brulee. And we're going to start with getting the cranberry sauce into the ramekins because that's going to be the most important part. We're starting off with some cranberry sauce that I made previously, and it's the kind that actually has the whole cranberries in it that have been smashed up a little bit. You can use the canned kind, of course. We're supposed to have 8 6-ounce ramekins. I did not have 8 6-ounce ramekins. I had 4 8-ounce ramekins and 4 7-ounce ramekins. So I actually increased my recipe a little bit. So some of the things that you see me put in aren't going to match up exactly with what the recipe says because I had to change it to match these. So the first thing we're going to do though is put in 2 tablespoons of the cranberry sauce in each ramekin. And I just happen to have a 2 tablespoon thing here. And you're just going to put it into the bottom and shake it up a little bit so that it is kind of even. And if there's any on the side, you can use a paper towel to clean it off with or whatever. So I'm going to do the rest of these. The reason that they are in these glass containers is because when I put them into the oven, I'm going to put in some boiling water around the edges, about 1 inch of boiling water, and that's going to help them not get burned but also completely get cooked through and through. So that's why they're in this, and it also makes it a lot easier. Well, we have our ramekins that are filled. I'm going to set aside the cranberry sauce because we're going to use it again later. It goes on top. Next I have some cream. This is heavy whipping cream. I'm going to put about half of it in a pot and have it kind of come to a slight boil because we're going to need it to add in a few minutes to our other stuff. I'm going to put it on medium heat and just pour it in because we don't want it to get too hot, and we want to save a little bit of this because we're going to use it to help cool the mixture off. Also, I have my water that I just finished boiling. This is what we're going to put in the glass pans around the ramekins. Alright, we'll go back over here. Next we're going to do the eggs. Whenever I show the recipe, you'll see how many eggs go in there. Mine is actually using about 12.5, but the recipe doesn't call for 12.5. Like I said, I'm going to expand it a little bit. I'm keeping this out extra to put the egg whites in because we're only going to use egg yolks for this. And I want to keep the egg whites because we can use them for something else that we're making. So we're going to split up these eggs. Actually, I didn't realize this, but in my drawer full of stuff I found an egg separator. So if you have an egg separator, you can also use it. Not sure if it's going to... Oh, and also it'll keep out those flakes of white. Well, let's see. Oh, let's see if this works. And it does work. Cool. So we'll just use this instead. So you can do it with your hands. You can make a mess. Or if you happen to have an egg separator, you can also use that. Well, we have finished cracking all the eggs. And to that, we're going to add the sugar to the egg yolks. And then we're going to whisk it until it is like a creamy consistency. We're going to do this until it's smooth, dissolving as much sugar as we can before we add the warm cream. Our cream is ready. You can just barely see it, but there's little teeny bubbles in there. I don't know if you can see it or not. And that's just where we want it. So this is turned off, and what I'm going to do is put this in my container I had the sugar in. Just because it'll be a little easier to pour that way. We're going to go ahead and add our vanilla to the eggs. And stir that up a little bit. And our cream, we're going to stir and just add a little bit at a time, because if we put too much, it'll actually, the heat from it will cook the eggs, and we don't want the eggs cooked. And we're adding the rest of the cream. And it has a little foam on top. You can scoop that off. Of course, if you don't whisk as crazy as I did, then that foam won't be there either. I'm going to let it set for just a minute or two, and I'm going to get that foam off the top. Alright, I've gotten most of the foam off of it. The next step is going to be to fill the ramekins. If you were just normally making this, it wouldn't be a problem just to pour it in, but I want to be careful with these because it has that cranberry sauce in it. So once again, I'm going to pour this into my container. That's a little easier. And I'm going to put a little bit in each one, and then I will come back to it and fill them all the way to the top. I want to make sure that I have enough to go and fill all of them. Okay, those are finished up. The next step is going to be to put them in the oven, which I preheated to 325. I'm going to set them in the oven, then I'm going to put the, let me wipe off any of this stuff around the edges. Then I'm going to put some hot water in a pitcher and pour it just into the edges so it doesn't make a mess all in there and I don't spill water everywhere. They're in. This is my boiling water, and I'm going to put in about an inch worth of water. And that should be about right. And these are going to go in for about, they'll be in for about 30 to 45 minutes. These have been in for 40 minutes. And they should be just a little jiggly, and these are just a little bit jiggly. I don't know if you can see them. They're just a little bit, look, undone in the middle, but that's what we want. Be just a little bit jiggly. And these are ready now to cool, and they need to set for about 8 hours in the refrigerator after they've cooled off, and then we'll be ready to put the top on. Today's the day of Thanksgiving, and we're going to finish up our creme brulees. The first thing we're going to do is, these have cooled overnight, is take a paper towel and just blot the tops of them to make sure there's not a lot of moisture. So we're just kind of blotting the top just a little, and there's a little. So then we're going to take a teaspoon of superfine sugar, and if you can't find superfine sugar, what I did was I took regular sugar and I put it in my food processor and got it really thin. Then you'll take your little torch and you're just going to melt that until it starts to crystallize on top. And if you realize you don't have enough sugar, you can add more. There it's going. I've added a little more. I added 2 teaspoons because that first one just wasn't enough. And that is perfect. Add just the last bit of cranberry right in the middle, and it's good to go.